Highway 101 is busy. People driving between Solana Beach and Encinitas can take this scenic road instead of hopping onto a nearby but frequently congested Interstate 5. And Encinitas City Council member Kelly Shaw-Hinsey says the road draws more than just car traffic.
So this is a stretch of highway where people like to run, ride bikes, and take in sort of this amazing scenic viewshed that we have on either side of the highway.
Shaw-Hinsey stands next to the large rocks which offer protection from high waves. The boulders serve as the last defense against an ocean that is increasingly putting pressure on local shorelines. She says on some stormy days it's best to drive on the freeway.
The highway was built on a very vulnerable sand spit, and this is what has been there to protect it for the last couple of decades. But as the conditions change and we start seeing more frequent high tides, what we've seen is that the highway becomes more vulnerable than it has been before.
This is low tide, no need for armoring this road, Highway 101. But when the tide comes in and there's a storm swell on top of it, the water actually washes over that roadway.
It has a history of going completely over 101 and closing the road and eroding it. We've had, in larger storms, damage.
Encinitas civil engineer Pete Milligan shared some photos of the damage. Pictures from 2010 show standing water on the highway and in the parking lots of several local businesses. Local streets were also flooded this winter during a high tide event that was coupled with a storm. At one point, high waves pushed cobblestones onto the roads. Milligan is hoping to protect the road through a unique plan that also creates sandy dune habitat that's pretty rare along the California coast. The Cardiff Living Shoreline project is due to be complete in April. It starts with an excavator digging a deep trench beside the road.
They come in and put filter fabric, the black fabric, in, and that really helps with the water not being able to get under the rock, erode the sand, and basically keeps it in place.
In addition to that, crews are lifting large boulders and stacking them on top of the fabric. The large rocks, or revetment, are then covered up with sand dredged from the nearby lagoon.
Where we have a final line of defense of the rock, which is going to save the road, but everything in front of it we're going to have to adjust and perfect as the project goes along over time. But if it was just sand, it would just go and we'd be in the same condition that we were before.
Milligan says the sandy habitat area is roped off and protected. It'll be allowed to settle and drain before native plants are added. That is exactly what conservationists did on a test project at the southern end of this beach. Bradley Nussbaum works with the San Elijo Lagoon Conservancy. He is standing on dune habitat that used to be a parking lot.
This is a pretty good representation of exactly what the dune should be looking like. Kind of a nice little hummocks flowing on it with vegetation. And this will probably be about the same density of the vegetation that we'll be experiencing there.
The dunes will offer space for flowers like the beach primrose, which sports bright yellow blooms, or purple blossoms of sand robina. Nussbaum says the habitat should also be an inviting space for the western snowy plover. This beach is already one of the most popular roosting spots for the federally endangered bird.
With this, this 60 foot of protected dune area where people won't be walking, that'll give them that kind of protected space where they can actually keep away from potential traffic.
The project is a complicated partnership between conservation groups, local governments, and state agencies. All are looking forward to seeing how the project stands up to the pounding the ocean can bring. Shaw-Hinsey says it's a work in progress.
We're not going to expect these dunes to be frozen in a moment of time. Sort of the beauty of it is that they can change, they can be dynamic.
And project managers concede it's not a permanent protection for the road. They say the ocean will eventually reclaim Highway 101 as sea levels rise, but they think this might be a good way to keep the road open for several more decades. Erik Anderson, KPBS News.